Hi students, I'm Sonia from Vidya Guru, starting a new session on current affairs. As you guys can make out, the month of August is on. That means I'm going to deliver the lecture on for the month of August only. This session is going to be completely in English medium. Please listen to the introduction all the time because I actually speak something new or the other for your information. I wish to tell you that this session is in English medium. As you guys can make out, if you wish to watch the session in Hindi medium, that is also there in the playlist. Kindly look for it. This session in English medium is recorded for our students from South India, like students from Karnataka, Telangana, Hyderabad, Kerala, and our students from Northeast India. Those who are unable to understand Hindi well, we record a separate session for them in English medium, complete English medium. I'll start the session, but before starting, I wish to request you that I spend ample time in collecting these many important points, because when you spend half an hour with me, you will come to know that how much effort I've put in, because I've collected these many points. I've actually made the presentation, and this presentation is surely going to be beneficial for you. Believe me, if you spend half an hour, you'll realize that you'll be learning around 50 to 60 new important points, super important points. Press the like button if you understand the session, share the video with your friends, and do subscribe to Vidya Guru's YouTube channel if you have not till now. Press the bell icon which is just beside the subscribe button. I'll start the session. Be careful, very careful, very observant from here on. Okay, the first question on your screen is about Paralympics. You may have heard many people teaching you only Olympics. They were focusing on only Olympics, Tokyo Olympics. Even I've taught you, because the questions of that sort are very significant for your exam. But the question on Paralympics, they are also asked. Paralympics take place at the same place where Olympics do take place. So if they were actually taking place in Tokyo, I'm referring to Olympics. Here I wish to tell you that Paralympics did take place in Tokyo only. So I'll start with that. Paralympics theme song. Paralympic theme song is Kar De Kamal Tu. Read the words carefully, they are in Hindi. Kar De Kamal Tu. And when I say that Sanjeev Singh has composed this Kar Le Kamal Tu Paralympic theme song, you must be thinking that we have not heard the name of this composer, we have not heard the name of this music director. The reason is because this Sanjeev Singh is also a Divyang cricketer, and he himself composed the song that is Kar De Kamal Tu for Paralympics actually. So that is significant. You can understand that. They may ask you that Sanjeev Singh, what is he associated with? So you have to be aware that he is also a Divyang cricketer and he has composed this song. That is why the song is even more important. Now you need to understand, we are talking about sports, and we have started talking about it. Anurag Singh Thakur is our Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports. So learn it carefully. Let's move ahead. The next question is about India is UN Security Council's President for August 2021. See, we are not saying that India is going to be the President perpetually. India is going to be the President for the August 2021 session only. And what session? The session is of UN Security Council. UN Security Council's President, India, for what session, as in for which session? The session which is going to take place in the month of August, India is going to do the presidentship of that session. The organization, I'm going to repeat that is United Nations Security Council. When I move ahead, PM chairs, that means our Prime Minister Modi is going to chair something. It's that UN Security Council debate on. See, UN Security Council is there. It is debating on something. What is the topic? That is maritime security. When I use the word maritime, that means I'm referring to navy, naval. So maritime security, that means naval security is being talked about, and our Prime Minister is debating on that. Apart from that, he is going to chair that debate. Debate of whom? Of which organization? That is UN Security Council's organization's debate on maritime security. Our PM is heading that. When I actually read the lower point, the lowest one, that is the most important point in the entire slide. Read it. First Indian Prime Minister to do something of this sort. What? First Indian Prime Minister to chair United Nations Security Council's meet. That is Prime Minister Modi. I hope you can understand why this question is important, because it is first of its kind. Such questions are always important, and it is about Prime Minister himself. That is why the question is even more significant. Let's move ahead. First ever naval exercise between India and Saudi Arabia. That means you must be thinking that there is no naval exercise took place in India between India and Saudi Arabia. Yes, that's true. This is happening for the first time. I wish to explain that. The ship which took part in this exercise is INS Kochi. You must be thinking that here I am talking about another exercise. These are not the same points actually. They are two different exercises. There are two different points. There are two different questions for you. So when I talk about this question, I wish to keep it aside for some time. I'll actually be talking about this question first. I'll actually tell you the reason also. The name of the exercise is Zayed Talwar. The name of the exercise is Zayed Talwar. First question. What sort of exercise it is? It is basically a naval exercise. The third thing is that the nations between this exercise took place, that is India and UAE, United Arab Emirates. When I talk about the venue is off Abu Dhabi coast, seashore. I hope you can relate that. So Abu Dhabi coast. When we say off the coast, that means we are not talking about the coast itself. We are talking about somewhere near the coast. So off Abu Dhabi coast, this Zayed Talwar took place between India and UAE. And in this Zayed Talwar naval exercise, our INS Kochi took part from, obviously, on behalf of India. This INS Kochi was there. INS Kochi did take part in this exercise also. So in both the exercises, this Kochi took part. That is why it actually went there mainly for this exercise, INS Kochi. Then it took part in this exercise also. The name of the exercise is a little strange, but you have to learn it because it is first of its kind. I'm going to, highlight this point as well. That is first ever naval exercise between India and Saudi Arabia. So between India and Saudi, first naval exercise, that is Al-Mohad Al-Hindi 2021. Al-Mohad Al-Hindi 2021. Let's talk about the venue. Venue even has Al Jubail port, and this Al Jubail port is in Saudi Arabia. And if you wish to know the area where it took place, because it was actually a naval exercise, so the place was Persian Gulf, Al Jubail port, and this port is in Saudi Arabia. So the name of the exercise is, be it Al-Mohad Al-Hindi 2021 or Zayed Talwar. Now you know the names of the exercises, venue and the nations between these exercises took place. Let's move ahead. Okay, this question is about world's highest motorable road. Motor plus able. Try to relate it. Where motors are able to ply. You have motor vehicles, but you cannot ply them on higher roads like the roads which are there in the mountains. The road which I am referring to is 19,300 feet above. It is that high where you can take your vehicles along and you can ply them. Those vehicles can ply there also. Which road I am referring to? World's highest motorable road at this place is Umlingla Pass. It is in eastern Ladakh. Umlingla Pass is in eastern Ladakh. This is actually going to be the highest motorable road, and it is that high. When you read the lowest point, this says that it connects something. See, when the road is there, it is, you know, at a very high point, but the road goes from one place, the road, you know, has some end also. So we are saying it connects Chisumle and Demchok to Leh. This is basically the places which are connected by this Umlingla Pass, which is the highest motorable road. So learn the name of Umlingla Pass. See, the repetition is purposeful. Let me tell you that. I can read it and keep moving ahead. I try to keep, you know, a good pace, but I really wish that whatever I'm teaching you, you should learn it at the same time when I'm delivering the lecture. So please try to keep that in your mind. Umlingla Pass, Eastern Ladakh, highest motorable road, and it is not India's highest, I'm referring to world's highest. Let's move ahead. The next question is under DICGC insurance. Okay, some sort of insurance is there. DICGC. Let's look at the full form of DICGC first. Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation. Deposit Insurance Credit Guarantee Corporation, DICGC. Okay, when I talk about such a thing, that it is a kind of insurance, what sort of insurance it is? Let's read it first. Under DICGC insurance, bank depositors to get up to rupees 5 lakh refund within 90 days. What does it mean? Okay, let's think about your savings account. You need to know about this point. The question is super significant. It is surely going to be asked in your exam. But what is important even in this page, what is super significant? Out of these points, there is one point which is even more significant. I'll focus on that. But I wish to tell you, even if you are not writing any exam, if you have any savings account in any bank, you need to be aware of it. And what is that? Let's say if you have a savings account in some bank, the bank is in the stressed state. If the bank is in the stressed state and you're not able to withdraw money from your bank, then what is going to happen with your money which is already there in your bank account? What is going to happen with it? So some part of it is insured. Like if you have 1 lakh rupees, such sort of assurance, you know, such sort of insurance is there, you're going to get your money back. But if you have 10 lakh rupees, the insurance is of 5 lakh rupees only. That means you will not be getting those 5 lakhs you are thinking of. Like you have 10 lakh in your account, you will be getting the insurance up to 5 lakh only. So under this DICGC, if you have more money, it does not matter, you're not going to get that much, but you're going to get at least 5 lakh rupees. If you have less, obviously you're going to get less amount. So under this, if the bank is in stressed state, you cannot withdraw your money. Bank is actually going bankrupt actually. So you can, you know, get the insurance of such sort. This sort of payment will be given to you in 90 days time. What is important in the entire page? 90 days is the duration which actually tells you that you are going to get this money in 90 days time, your insured money. What is the breakup of this 90 days? The breakup is here. Stressed bank to collate data. Bank is not in the state to give you the money, but bank that is actually a stressed bank. That bank is going to collate the data, and that data will be provided, will be given to DICGC. Bank is going to inform DICGC in 45 days. I am going to break this 90 days. Be careful. And after 45 days, till 45 days we have DICGC to process the claim in next 45 days. So add this 45 with this 45, it becomes 90, and in 90 days you're going to get your claim. That's what I've mentioned. Bank is going to collect the data will be given to DICGC, and that DICGC is going to settle the claim in another 45 days. Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation Act 1961, it is this. I've written the full form here. Let's move ahead. India's first indigenous aircraft carrier. aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. Aircraft, indigenous. Okay, focus on the words. India's first. Indigenous, that means India has made it. So India is going to make what? The first of its own aircraft carrier. The name of that carrier is INS Vikrant, and that INS Vikrant is not there in the Navy right now. It will be inducted, it will be introduced, it will be inducted into Navy in 2022. So be careful. INS Vikrant going to be inducted in Navy in 2022, and what it is actually, it is India's first indigenous aircraft carrier. So learn that. Let's move ahead. ISRO NASA joint satellite project to be launched in 2023. The name of that project is NISAR. When you read such a question, you can spend ample time learning from the magazines, taking out information from various sources. I try to collect the data, I try to deliver only the important points. After reading long passages, I try to take out important points and I actually deliver them. What is important here? Please understand that when we have NASA and when we have ISRO, such sort of space organizations are there and they are coming together. So the concern has to be the bigger one, and what they are coming together for. The thing is NISAR. What this NISAR is, I am going to explain that. What I am saying, ISRO and NASA came together for a project. That project is NISAR. This NISAR has some full form. That is why I have written it in capital letters. I am going to actually explain what NISAR is. It is an Earth observing mission. What sort of Earth observing mission? They are going to use advanced radar imaging. Advanced radar imaging will be used for Earth observation, and for the same cause they have come together. Who? What? ISRO and NASA. So what is NISAR? One S is NASA, one I is ISRO. So the first two letters are NASA and ISRO. A stands for aperture, S was synthetic, R was radar. I'm going to repeat that. NASA, ISRO, synthetic, aperture, radar. That's the full form of NISAR, and I hope you can even understand when such sort of huge organizations are coming together, you know that such a question is surely going to be there in your exam. Let's move ahead. Okay, number of India's UNESCO World Heritage Sites. You even know that we have a lot many UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There are newer ones which are keep on adding. So we are going to talk about the newer ones, but I am going to tell you the total number of UNESCO sites that India has. There are 40. Read that carefully. Number of India's UNESCO World Heritage Sites, they are 40. And what are the recent additions? What are the latest additions? This one is Dholavira. Dholavira is basically a Harappan city. Do you study history? Have you heard about Indus Valley civilization? And in that Indus Valley civilization, Harappa is a city, Mohenjo-daro is a city, Lothal is a city. Similarly, Dholavira is also a city. So you must be thinking that Dholavira already exists. We are saying that Dholavira existed already. We know that it was actually discovered by Jagat Pati Joshi back in 1968. So we are not saying that it came into existence just now. We are saying that Dholavira has become UNESCO's World Heritage Site recently. So this is basically India's recent addition. Okay, where this Dholavira is situated, that can be the question which is going to be there in your exam. Dholavira is situated in Gujarat. There's another site like Lothal is also there in Gujarat, but Dholavira has become the UNESCO World Heritage Site from India's part, India's UNESCO World Heritage Site. So Dholavira is in Gujarat. It is a Harappan city. I was saying that it was discovered by Jagatpati Joshi 1968, in the year 1968. Like Harappa was actually discovered by Dayaram Sahni. So you may have heard a lot many names like Rakhal Das, Banerjee and all. So these are the people who were actually the archaeologists. They discovered these sites. So you will actually be reading such names when you study history. So I'm actually going to talk about this. Apart from that, Kakatiya Rudreshwar temple. Kakatiya dynasty was there. Kakatiya dynasty was behind the construction of this Rudreshwar temple, which is also known as Ramappa temple. So Kakatiya Rudreshwar temple, Ramappa temple, which is in Telangana, is also our recent addition, which makes our UNESCO World Heritage Site count 40. Let's move ahead. The next question is ambassador of RBI's awareness campaign on digital online banking frauds, Neeraj Chopra. You've heard the name many times, Neeraj Chopra. He is the fellow who brought gold for us. We got actually only one gold, and that gold was, he received that gold. So that fellow is the same Neeraj Chopra. So ambassador. See, RBI is willing to spread awareness. Awareness on what? Awareness on banking, online banking frauds. So when such sort of frauds, such sort of digital frauds, they do take place, somebody has to make people aware. So they have actually got an ambassador for the same, and the name of that fellow is Neeraj Chopra. He has actually become the ambassador for RBI's awareness campaign. What this campaign is about? It is about banking frauds, digital banking frauds. Campaign name. The name of the campaign is RBI Kehta Hai. It is in Hindi too. So RBI Kehta Hai, that's the name of the campaign, which is going, Neeraj Chopra is going to be the ambassador for the same. Let's move ahead. Okay, Constitutional Amendment Bill restoring powers of states to make their own OBC list 127th. See, this 127th is basically the Constitutional Amendment Bill. It has already been passed by Lok Sabha. So I'm saying they are giving some rights to states. What sort of rights? States can decide their OBC list. OBC, I'm referring to other backward class. I am just telling you the full form of it. There are people who wish to take the help through this OBC quota. You even know that. So central government used to decide who is, OBC and who is not. Now they are saying that as per this Constitutional Amendment Bill 127th, as per this bill, they are restoring, they are giving the powers to the states, they are giving back the powers to state. What sort of power they are actually giving to the states? That they can prepare their own list of OBCs. What sort of list is that? See, when somebody is, somebody belongs to OBC category, you need to understand such people do take the help, they can provide, they can show their OBC quota at places like educational institutions, or maybe, while getting jobs, they can show their OBC quota. So states can decide their OBC list. That is important. I hope you could understand. When somebody talks about 127th numbers Constitutional Amendment Bill, you will be saying that it is associated with what? It is associated with OBC list. Let's move ahead. New Controller General, not Comptroller General, it is Controller General, the normal word. New Controller General of Accounts, CGA, Controller General of Accounts, Deepak Das. So Deepak Das has become the new Controller General of Accounts. Now, let's talk about the two more appointments, but they are of the bigger level, greater level. I am going to talk about Peru's president, I am going to talk about Peru's prime minister. So when I am saying new president of Peru, Pedro Castillo has become the new president of Peru. New prime minister of Peru, Guaido Bellido. Pedro Castillo, Guaido Bellido. you have to speak these names often, because when you speak these names again and again with me, then only you will be able to learn them. So that is your job. When you watch the video, you have to learn everything, whatever I'm teaching you. Please focus on that. I was saying Pedro Castillo, president of Peru, new president of Peru, and Guaido Bellido, new prime minister of Peru. Let's move ahead. See, the appointments are always important. If any country gets new president, if any country gets new prime minister, that is important. If the country is of some significance. When I talk about e-rupee, when teachers teach you, even when you were there in your schools, teachers do focus on some questions. It is that. When I talk about all the questions are important, this question is going to be even more important. So mark it as super important question. It is surely going to be there in your exam. Mark my words. Here I am going to talk about e-rupee. What is that e-rupee? E-rupee, understand it like that. It is just a digital voucher. What is it? It is a digital voucher. What sort of digital voucher this e-rupee is? It is basically a one-time voucher. It is basically a contactless voucher. It is basically a cashless digital voucher. So that digital voucher, as it is a digital voucher, it cannot be given to you manually. I cannot send a letter on which something is written and that voucher will be delivered at your place. That cannot happen because it is a digital voucher. It will be given to you in some digital manner, and that digital manner is SMS or QR code. That SMS or that QR code will be given to you if this e-rupee digital voucher is going to be given to you. So beneficiary is going to get an SMS, beneficiary is going to get a QR code of this e-rupee digital voucher. Okay. When you wish to learn who developed such a thing, this e-rupee digital voucher, see, you get a lot many vouchers. I know that you may have consumed them, you have a lot many with you. This is also a kind of voucher I told you, but this is basically a digital voucher. This was actually developed by National Payments Corporation of India. E-rupee, they can ask you who developed it. That question can also be asked. So please be careful. E-rupee was developed by National Payments Corporation of India, and it was developed on, there can be many platforms, there can be many ways on which such a thing can be developed. So related like that. It is developed on UPI platform, and how you are going to keep such a thing in your mind. It is like that. This rupee has UPI in it. So this UPI and this UPI, they are obviously the same. So we are going to relate it like that just to keep in our minds. This is going to be pretty easy for you. It is developed on UPI platform. e-rupee is developed on UPI platform, as e-rupee has UPI in it already. When we talk about e-rupee, it is just for your information that e-rupee is person specific. It will be given to some individual. It is even purpose specific. This sort of digital voucher, this e-rupee is. Let's move ahead. Okay, Samagra Shiksha scheme for school education extended from April 2021 to March 2026 for 5 years. What is that? Samagra Shiksha. See, when government launches something, you need to understand that question is surely going to be there in your exam, because I consider them super important. I get the feedback from students that this question was asked in our exam, so that's how I make out. The question is Samagra Shiksha. It is basically a scheme. If they ask you such a question that what Samagra Shiksha is about, it is about school education. Read that carefully. Samagra Shiksha is about school education. It got some sort of extension. That means it already existed, got more extension. It got extension for 5 years. Now the time period is 21 to 26, April 21 to March 26. That's the duration between which this scheme is going to last for some more time. Outlay. Outlay is expenditure. Outlay is how much the government is going to spend on such a scheme. That is going to be around 3 lakh crore. 2.94 lakh crore to be very precise. 2.94 lakh crore is the amount that our government is going to spend on Samagra Shiksha. And what Samagra Shiksha is about? It is about school education. When we move ahead, 3 months self-defense skill training under Rani Lakshmi Bai Atma Raksha Prashikshan. Read the words carefully. They are associated. Under Samagra Shiksha only, they are going to provide self-defense to schoolgirls, government schoolgirls. If the girls are there, they go to schools and they are supposed to know defense also. All the girls need to know defense. For the same, they will be given 3 months self-defense training. So, self-defense skills training under what? Such a name had to be there. Such a name is pretty evident. Rani Lakshmi Bai self-defense. Rani Lakshmi Bai Atma Raksha. Atma Raksha, that means they are going to actually protect themselves. Atma Raksha, protect themselves. Prashikshan, training. Prashikshan means training. So, Rani Lakshmi Bai Atma Raksha Prashikshan under this Samagra Shiksha, through which they are going to get self-defense training for 3 months. Learn the names, they are very important. The next question is a little associated with schemes only, but something different also. Assessment framework launched. For whom? For the students like who are studying in 3rd class, in 5th class, in 8th class. They are CBSE students. If they are 3rd class, 5th class, 8th class students, assessment framework has already been launched for them. What sort of assessment framework we are talking about? Assessment framework for these students of these classes. The name of that assessment framework is SAFAL. SAFAL is written in capital letters. That means it has some full form. Read it carefully. SAFAL, as it is about the assessment of these students, assessment of these kids. So the word assessment has to be there. 1A is assessment, 1A is analyzing, L is learning. Obviously we require some sort of learning for students and they have to be successful. So we are saying that structured assessment for analyzing learning, that becomes SAFAL. That's the full form which can be asked in your exam. So learn it with ease because you have to repeat it 2 to 3 times to keep this in your mind. When I talk about integrated teacher training program, that is Nishtha 2.0. Nishtha 2.0. It is obviously the 2nd edition of Nishtha. That means there was some other edition also. This is going to be the 2nd edition. We talk about the training of kids. We talk about the learning of kids all the time. But in Nishtha, it is something different. What it is? Nishtha is about the training of teachers. Nishtha has some full form also. That is why I have written it in capital letters. N stands for national. I stands for initiative. Pretty easy sort of words. National initiative. For what? For school heads. Please understand that when I talk about heads, that means head like principals, like headmistress. So such sort of heads. Now they are going to be trained. T stands for teachers. So national initiative for school heads, teachers, learn it like that. Holistic advancement, that's the full form of Nishtha, and I feel that you will be able to learn it very easily. I'll move ahead, but you cannot forget the names of SAFAL and Nishtha and their full forms. Let's move ahead. Now, RBI's bi-monthly policy review. RBI's bi-monthly policy review. We'll start with the rates. See, when there's any rate in your mind and you're aware that it is unchanged, do watch that part, because if you miss even one rate, just one rate, and if that rate is asked in your exam and if you're not aware of the current rate, there can be a mistake, there can be an error. So please read them carefully. Repo rate unchanged 4%. Reverse repo rate 3.35%. bank rate 4.25%, policy stance was kept accommodative only. On tap, targeted long-term repo operations, targeted long-term repo operations, TLTRO, it is generally called TLTRO, but as a student you need to know the full form of it. On tap, as and when required, targeted long-term repo operations scheme, it got some extension too, it got extended till 31st December 2021. I've taught you about these schemes earlier as well. They got some sort of extension, that is why I'm mentioning them again. MSF is marginal standing facility. What is important out here? Now, this is the important point. Net demand time liability of a bank. So, as per bank's net demand time liability, banks can take the loan of 2% of their NDTL. 2% of their NDTL. But they have been given the relaxation. Banks have been given the relaxation, keeping the problem, keeping the scenario, keeping the situation of this time. Banks have been given some sort of relaxation. Earlier they were given 2% of their NDTL, the loan. Now I am saying, as per this relaxation, banks will be able to get this loan as per, they can take the loan 3% of their NDTL. So 1% is more, 1% has been actually increased, and such sort of extension is given to the banks till 31st December 2021. Let's move ahead. G20 Digital Ministers Meeting. The venue is Trieste, Italy. That's how we pronounce it. Trieste, Italy. Trieste, Italy. There's a place in Italy that is Trieste. There, G20 Digital Ministers Meet took place. When I talk about such a thing, our digital minister becomes important. You must be thinking we don't have any digital minister. We do have. So, by such a name, that Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology is headed by Ashwini Vaishnav. So this Ashwini Vaishnav is our digital minister, is our electronics and IT minister. Why am talking about this fellow here? Because I talked about digital ministers meet of G20 nations which took place at Trieste, Italy. Keep this away. Let's move to the new point, which is about Tajikistan. And what is that? See, Shanghai Cooperation Organization Justice Ministers meet took place. I am saying that Shanghai Cooperation Organization Justice Ministers meet hosted by Tajikistan. Now you can recall that I've taught you something about Tajikistan in the previous video as well. And what was that? I hope you can recall. If somebody ask you a question, what is the name of the capital of Tajikistan? That is Dushanbe. Where did this question come from? The reason of asking such a question. How come Dushanbe be asked? The reason is, I've taught you in the last class, I'm going to repeat that again. I taught you something which was like external affairs ministers meet, foreign ministers meet and defense ministers meet of Shanghai Cooperation Organization took place in Dushanbe, Tajikistan. Our external affairs minister S. Jaishankar and our defense minister Rajnath Singh, they did the delegation on behalf of India. Obviously they did take part in that SCO. Foreign ministers and defense ministers meet. Now I am talking about the same sort of thing. There I was talking about defense ministers and foreign ministers meet of SCO. Here I am talking about SCO's justice ministers meet, which was hosted by Tajikistan. And I am saying our minister of law and justice is Kiran Rijiju. Obviously he did the delegation in such a meet, so learn his name carefully. Let's move ahead. First Indian city to have 24/7 drink from tap facility. See, we even have taps at our places. The water is also there. the concern, the plus point here is that 24/7 drink from tap facility is obviously, you know, not available anywhere. So such a thing is happening at Puri, Odisha. First of its kind. Read it carefully. First of its kind. So first Indian city to have 24/7 drink facility, drink from tap facility, Puri, Odisha. The question is important. Let's move ahead. Now, non-banks. Be focused, because I feel that students do not take, you know, too much interest in such questions, but they are asked. Even nobody bothers to teach such questions because they are difficult also. I'll try my level best to make you understand, but again, you have to be focused. Non-banks, not the banks, non-banks. What sort of banks? They are actually payment service providers. Non-banks, payment service providers, allowed by whom? Allowed by RBI. To do what? That these non-banks can participate in RBI's centralized payment system. What sort of centralized payment systems are they? Like NEFT, like RTGS. NEFT, RTGS are actually the centralized payment systems of RBI, and I am saying that these non-banks have been given the permission by RBI that they can take part in RBI centralized payment systems. What are they? Prepaid payment instruments issuers, like you have Paytm, Amazon Pay, like you have Google Pay, like you have Phone Pay. So such sort of, you know, non-banks I'm referring to. Prepaid payment issuers, prepaid payment instrument issuers, PPI issuers, like wallets, card networks and white label ATM operators. They have been given the permission by RBI that they can take part in RBI's centralized payment system. But there's some eligibility for it. If their net worth is below 25 crores, they cannot take part in such a thing. So their eligibility is 25 crores net worth. 25 crores, their net worth should be there. I am saying, but that's not the only condition. They are saying, or as per RBI certificate of authorization, whichever is higher. Read that carefully. If some non-bank starts its functions, they have to acquire some sort of certificate of authorization from RBI. So if in that RBI certification the amount is higher, like it is 30 crores, then the eligibility of that non-bank is going to be 30 crores. Medal tally. You may have heard a lot about these things, that India was on 48th rank. Important ranks as per the medal tally. See, Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, we started with Paralympics. 32nd numbers Olympics took place in Tokyo, Japan. As per the medal tally, USA stood on top. The reason is total medals 113 and total number of golds were 39. Second, China with total number of golds 38. Total medals bronze, silver 88. Japan got 27 gold, third rank, and total medals of Japan were of 58. India's rank was 48 and India got 1 gold only by Neeraj Chopra, you know that, and total medals which India got, they were 7. Let me break that up. India's performance: first 1 gold, 2 silver and 4 bronze. I'll explain them even further in the next slide. Neeraj Chopra got gold in javelin throw. We have even seen that javelin throw. Mirabai Chanu got silver in 49 kg weightlifting. We have seen that match also, that show as well. Ravi Dahiya, he got silver. Ravi Dahiya got silver in free style 57 kg wrestling. Freestyle 57 kg wrestling. Ravi Dahiya got silver. Men's hockey team got bronze. That is also super important because they performed very, very well. So men's hockey team got bronze by defeating Germany. Germany. That is important. In that match where they received bronze, they defeated the team of Germany. Let's move ahead. Lavlina Borgoin. Lavlina Borgoin has actually received bronze, and if you are already aware about Lavlina and you know that she received bronze, you may have seen the videos also, but what sort of performance, like she was in boxing, we know that, but what sort of boxing? The type of boxing is welterweight boxing, in which Lavlina Borgoin got bronze. Please understand the name of the boxing is as well. The boxing event is welterweight boxing. PV Sindhu got bronze in badminton, we know about her. Bajrang Punia got bronze in 65 kg freestyle wrestling. Who? Bajrang Punia. First Indian woman to score Olympic hat-trick in hockey. I hope you can even make out that the question is super important. This has never happened. First of its kind. Understand that. First Indian woman to score Olympic hat-trick. The same match was there in which 3 goals, were shot by actually the same person. The name of that woman is Vandana Kataria. So Vandana Kataria, first Indian woman to score Olympic hat-trick in hockey. Let's move ahead. Now, first Indian woman to win 2 Olympic medals, PV Sindhu. 2 Olympic medals, first woman. Hockey team captains. Now I'm going to talk about men's hockey team and women's hockey team. Men's hockey team, Manpreet Singh, I've talked about him earlier as well. Rani Rampal, women's hockey team's captain. So women's hockey team headed by Rani Rampal, men's hockey team headed by Manpreet Singh. Hockey team goalkeepers were, one was PR Srijesh and women's hockey team Savita Punya. Learn their names carefully. I've selected even more important points and added them, Now, the next question is about men's football. Must be thinking that India was not the part, but the sport football is important. So the questions can be asked on football as well. Please understand that football is liked by many Indians, played by many Indians, but we are not able to score, or we are not able to play that well. But the question and the sport is important. That is why I've added this question. Men's football. Brazil won that men's football match and by defeating Spain. Talking about obviously the final ones. Women's football won by Canadian team by defeating Sweden. Canadian team, Canada won by defeating Sweden. Maximum medals. Now I'm going to talk about the individuals. One individual can take part in multiple events. Emma McCain, she took part obviously in multiple types of swimming. So such sort of events did take part. Emma McCain is from Australia. They are surely going to ask you such a question. Please understand that. Maximum medals by Emma McCain, they are 4 gold and 3 bronze. In what? Swimming. She is a swimmer, Emma McCain. Nationality of this girl is important. She is from Australia and she is associated with the sport swimming. She won 4 golds, 3 bronze, total 7 medals. Now, maximum gold medals. There's another question. Maximum gold medals. See, this girl, this lady has won 4 golds here. So, we are talking about maximum medals here. Total 7. Now, I'm going to talk about maximum gold medals. So, gold medals maximum, Caleb Dressel. Caleb Dressel is from USA. He won 5 golds. So, 5 gold in the sport swimming only. Let's move ahead. Let's go to the next question. Youngest gold medalist. This is going to be the last question of the day. So, be super focused. Youngest gold medalist, Momiji Nishia. So, the name is a little funny. Momiji Nishia is from Japan. Now, see, when I was talking about youngest gold medalist in Olympics only, here I am talking about youngest medalist, gold medalist, youngest medalist. The person, they are very young, the kids actually. Kokona Hiraki, As you can even make out by the name itself, she is from Japan also. So these are two young, girls from Japan. One Momiji Nishia, and one is Kokona Hiraki from Japan. Sport. They both are associated with skateboarding. Here I'm going to wrap up. If you understood everything, you can press the like button. If you could not, you can watch the Hindi session. Thank you so much for watching.